In this video help tutorial, I'm going to be covering more of the popovers, and we're going to be looking at the project manager's time. Now, I talked about this a little bit before, and I'm going to cover it completely in this video. Keep in mind that as we're working with the different projects, we have the ID at the top, the numeral that tells you what particular project you're working on. And as I pointed out before, you can also take the project manager's portal number, in this case the project ID that is the proposal number, and use whatever approach you want to in this area. You add this one by clicking and dropping down, and as you add more projects you'll have them in the drop down and make them available. If you want to find a specific one, for example I have P1, P2, if you go to a find and start a find and type in P1 or P2, that will be the record that it would be found. Now in a portal you cannot do that, so you would have to go into the actual, and this is the portal that has multiple records, you'd have to go to the individual portal record and click over here and then do your find from within this record. It's important to recognize that the portals are not where you add records, because you do that all back in the marketing main screen, and you just go here to either edit or update information in here. And because this is a relationship, all the things you change over here, for example, if I went down here and typed in test, and I did do it, let's go back and put it in correctly. If I go back to the main screen again, and I go ahead and look at that particular record that I was in for time, you'll see the test shows up in here because it's carried through the relationship into whatever you put in. So if you modify anything in this screen, it'll show up in the portal individual record, and if you change the status for some reason here, it would change it in that particular record. So as I go between the different screens, you'll see down here there's no narrative. This is an individual standalone record with its own marketing budget element in here, and of course these are drop downs where you can pick these and also edit them. And I'm repeating myself, but I want to place that in your mind that you can edit these and make them in whatever order you want based on the logic that you need to do as far as the information. Now let's cover the basics of why we're doing this. In this screen, for example, we're tracking project manager's time. Now in my more than 40 years of working in project management, I recognize personalities come into effect, and depending upon who the chief engineer is in your corporation or company, the chief engineer can dictate exactly what he wants. In the companies that I've been in the past and had an effect where I actually created databases to manage things, we basically added, I should say, a portal record for the project manager. There is an issue where the project manager can be working on multiple different projects at one time, and they can get a little messed up as far as following their timesheets. I mentioned in the last time I mentioned this screen that project managers in some companies don't put any time out. They're just charging against overhead. That is not a good way to do business, because the project manager is one of the highest cost item people as far as employees in your company, and if you don't have the ability to manage their time and add it to the proper project that they're working in for whatever time they're working in there, I'm going to take that out of there, but as you're going through you need to identify where the time is being spent, on what days it's being spent, and on what projects and the actual element that they're working in as they're working. Now if you want your project managers to charge to overhead, then you would have a management budget time element for that particular thing called overhead, and you could add it into these things over here. Now overhead obviously takes money out of the bottom line. So as a project manager, you're costing the company money, but you're not putting anything back into it. And that's the whole purpose of tracking both the project manager's time, and as we go down into scheduling and project planning and task managing, we're going to be looking at the employee part of the input and tracking their time individually. And because this is capable of being a multi-user application, either the individual could bring it up on his desktop through a browser if it's hosted on a cloud, or if you have an iPad or an iPhone and you're in the field, you can add your own time in on the fly by using an internet connection and then process the information as you're in the field. This helps very much. For example, we used to have survey teams that would go out 150, 300 miles to a site and spend 2, 3, 4 days there. And if they don't document their time, they're going to forget what they were doing, and they didn't put their notes in there. Like, for example, if I'm doing a work task and I'm out in the area, in this case it's a project manager, but the same thing will be true of the employees as we're doing their time, and you don't put what's in there that you're actually working on and what you're completing, it's very difficult to recall without having a database to track all that task capability and process that you created and done, unless you note those particular things. And because this is one part of the budget element, and this is another part, and so forth, as you go down through them, you know, defining the WBS, budget research, budget planning, and so forth. And these are all for the one project. You'll note that when you're in the project, all the data that's working through this is for that particular project. Now, if we're going something like on the calendar splits that time out by individual projects and shows you all the projects in the same screen. The same thing goes for many of the things that are over here that I picked out and put in the calendar. You can actually view them and work with them and edit them and add information on the fly in the calendar. For example, you may be wanting to put in the task that's being done by the project manager, or the individual employees can add their time and their documentation about what they're doing. That's why we're adding these things into the calendar to make it simpler. You can edit them there, but you have to create them over here. So that means always create new records on this set of data. You don't go to the calendar and try to create a data stuff, or you don't go to a portal and try to create this record in a portal. They're always created here, not in the actual portals out here on the other side. Okay, and what are those? For example, if I left here and went over there, come up to here, and you'll see that the items that are highlighted in no color are actual portals. The actual project elements are in the light blue drop-downs. List views are always green like these here. And you can have reports that are all in gray, and special things over here like invoices and work orders over here on this side. Okay, so this is what we're doing. We're covering the time for the project manager and understanding where it's located and how to use it and where do you put your data in. If you have questions or you need assistance, you can always get a hold of us at our support site at ontargetsolutions.biz. Thank you.